Exit isn't an event, it's a mindset. You're listening to Business Exit Secret Formula with JD, that's Josie and David Fisher. And today's episode might rattle some cages.
Well, we're talking about why smart business owners think exit early, even when they're not ready to sell or are not considering selling. While a business owner who needs to exit due to, say, health, stress, lack of energy, unfortunately financial pressures, they're going to be part of the 80% of businesses that are just not going to sell every year. The business exit process isn't a one-day event. It's a multi-year mindset.
Yes, the wake-up call. Only 20 to 30% of small to mid-sized businesses that go to market actually sell. That's terrifying, isn't it?
And the kicker, 75% of those who do sell, unfortunately, regret. It's not about the money, it's about the business owner not being exit ready. And we'll go a little bit deeper on that. They weren't emotionally prepared, or their business was too dependent on them, the business owner.
Yes, we call that founder trap syndrome, don't we? The business works, but only if you do. So here's the exit runway.
You don't exit like flipping a switch. It's more like taking off in a plane. So you think when you're in a plane, you have to get yourself prepared. The pilot has to know where they're going. They're going to put all those coordinates in. So think of that as your plan. Then, of course, you're going to pack your bags, do all of that type of thing. And so you have to go and put them all in there, and they have to be balanced, the plane. There's no point having everyone on one side of the plane. Then to even take off, you need to get the right weight ratios and everything like that. It's a great way to think of how you prepare. And as we go further into that, you'll see it's going to take a few years. So we all jump on a plane and they can turn it around within sort of 35 to 40 minutes, maybe an hour. But it's going to take a little bit longer when you're actually preparing your exit in your business.
Yeah, the exit runway. Love that visual. So good.
Here's how it goes. Let's re-engineer where you want to be, starting with year 5, which is now, and year 1 is when you have achieved a successful sale. And the successful sale is on your terms. So lots of people have sales, but they don't have it on their terms. So there's a whole lot of different parts to all of that as we go through this process of year 5, preparation. This is, so remember, as we're re-engineering, we're not waiting to year 5. We're starting from year 5 and we're working our way as if we're going to take 5 years. Just in this scenario, some businesses could do it in 2 years, but most businesses, it's a 5-year event. So just think of it this way, that if you don't know where you're going, like we're talking about the runway of the plane, they have to put all of those coordinates in, so then they know where their destination. They have to obviously let air traffic control drive all of that part as well for them. And so if you don't know where you're going before you leave, unfortunately we have people that have got a contract right sitting in front of them, and they go, well, if I sign this contract for millions of dollars, when I drive out the gate, do I turn left or do I turn right? And so they don't sell it. And we've got an example later on of what happens when you don't do that. And so this is, the preparation is really the most important phase at this stage. So the preparation is a continuous process. It will go on for years and years as it evolves. It's not like something we're going to do a business plan, we're going to throw it in the drawer and off we go. It's all a journey. So if we think of the preparation as a journey, so as you evolve, as your business gets better, sometimes you just want to sell it outright. Sometimes we actually want to stay into the business. There's so many dynamics in this preparation phase. So that's why we've put it in year 5. So then we move on to year 4. So optimization. So do you have systems within the operations? And what about your team? So if you systemize the whole process and then you step back, some of the team's going to need some training. Most of the team's going to need some training. We're going to have to start extracting some of that stuff out of your heads. And there's people there that are going to do a better job than you probably are, and which is really good. So you're on that phase of trying to make yourself redundant. So even if you do stay in the business for a while, that's fine. Step back, have a percentage of the business and get someone else to run the operations. So as we were saying before, the biggest issue that we have today is from people running out of energy. So if you're not growing, pretty much you're dying. So, and that goes for the business owner, because the business owner's the energy. Just think of it that way. So think of the plane getting off the ground. It's not going to get off the ground if there's no fuel in the tank. So if you've run out of fuel in the tank, and the fuel in the tank is actually, that's your energy, it's the finances as we go through those different parts of it. But there's a lot to all of this part of optimization, not just numbers and all the rest of it. Let's move on to year number 3. So let's optimize your profits. Now, this is an interesting part. So don't go digging things out and say, look, I just want to have a drawer for my monies and all the rest of it. Because all of that stuff, we need clean records of everything. We need people who are going to go in there and they're looking at it. So there's people there that buy mergers and acquisitions. There's different people. There's other people that could, but they're professional. They know what they're looking at. They know those numbers. And if those numbers don't look right, they'll just leave you behind. And then they'll look at someone else's business, what is going on in their business. So just think of that. Those numbers have to be really clean. So what you do with your accountant and all the rest of it, just think over the next, ultimately 5 years, because generally most people go back over 5, sometimes 3 years. But if we're starting from year 5 now, we're moving our way through, have some really clean records. Really think twice about what you do. And see, some people cut back on their stocks and all that type of thing. This is not a good time, because they can see those numbers going up in that last year and they think, well, you just haven't, if you've got a whole lot of products to sell, you just haven't bought more. So they can see that and think, well, the last year suddenly gone up and made all this profit, but there's no stock. So on to year number 2, succession and buyers. So is it going to be, are you going to sell or hand over part of your business or all of your business, hypothetically, say to family or the current management within the company, that they might have a portion of the business and then you have a portion? Or is it to a complete stranger? So if you want your legacy to continue, this is a time that you really need to, what is your legacy? Or is it just that you're going to walk out the door and just take the check, and then you, at that point, you're going to really struggle with what was your purpose and your mission? Once you've gone, you don't want to be part of that 75% that regret selling their business. That's not a good spot to be at all. The next part, and this is a very crucial part, the transformation. Now, you've got negotiations, you've got the transition, going through the process, and this can be a long, drawn-out process. A lot of deals, for example, can take 1 to 3 years in that process, typically 1 to 2, and they might want you in the business for a period of time, which is quite common as they go through that transition process. Is your health and energy up to that stage? Just think of that. Do you need to work on that? What are you going to do in that process? So you think of the transformation. You're not only transitioning through your business, but you're transitioning through the whole process of your life. So our company is called Business Exit and Beyond for a reason. We're helping business owners exit, but what are we going to do with your business beyond business, as we call it? What are you going to do at that stage? So you don't want to get down to all but signing the contract and then you'll end up being a person that 3 years later it takes. This is the time to do it now. So as we're going through year 5, starting that process, this comes along as it's a journey. It's not, like I say, a one-stop shop. So just think of those, and the terms. Terms are very important. You want them on your conditions. So there's obviously implementations and different things like that for tax, for example. If you've got a company in Australia, then if you've had it for 15 years plus, obviously you're not going to pay any capital gains tax. So there's different ways of doing that if you transition out over a step period, that you can sort of not so much mitigate, but reduce that amount over a series of time, as well as there's vendor finance. There's a whole lot of things that you have to think of. Do you want to be part of that, or you've just finished and you're done? But if you're in that sort of mode that you're really thinking about, okay, the next step, what am I going to do? Really start thinking of that journey. In other words, discovering your purpose now, really discover it. And for us, we're from a different type of background and building and development. And here we are now in the business exit and beyond. And we discovered that this is what our purpose and mission is for life. So we really want you to really dig deep in this transformation stage. It's a really important part.
Yes, it certainly is. So if you want to exit at 60, you need to get on the exit runway at 55 to achieve a successful sale on your terms and create your beyond business vision and mission for the next chapter. So what gets measured gets sold, they say. So we teach the exit readiness framework. There are 4 core areas that buyers care about.
Mental readiness. So people think, the buyers don't really care about that. Of course they do, because they are looking at when they take over. They don't want to buy first. They don't want to buy a job. They want an operation that is ready to sell. So part of being ready to sell, remember, is the business owner. So if you're not in that mental spot and you're the person that lands up with signing that, going through all the due diligence, or the business owner going through that, which comes at a cost for them as they go through their time and obviously legal side and accounting and all the rest of it, going through that, but you're not ready, and then you at the last minute pull out of the deal, that's a major problem. They really need to see that you're ready and prepared to go. So if you can share your story, where you're going next, they know, okay, this is a real sale. And I know it sounds strange that you want to sell your business, but is it ready to sell? But so many people go through it. And your business is like your baby. You've started from nothing and you've turned this great business, and you've served the community and what you've done by different products or services or whatever it may be. And it's really important that you actually, the legacy that continues, is a really important part of it, that the owner will pick up on that. The next one is, of the 4, is financial readiness. And most of us probably understand that, but there's a difference between your accountant's job is to actually look at how they can minimize your tax. So it's going to make it, how should we say, not as attractive for profits and EBITDA and all the rest of it as they dig into it, because you might land up paying some extra tax in that last period of time to show that, hey, this is just a very profitable business. And the other part is having clean records. So none of these suddenly jump in there and take out money and draw out money. Oh, look, I just need another 20,000. I'm just going to pull that out of the business because I want to go off on holiday to Europe or something like that. Great idea, but don't go and steal from your business, as they say, because it'll come back and bite. Because people say, so what did you do here? People are looking at the 20,000, for example, are getting invested in their business so it can turn it into a 50,000 or 100,000, or get a return of 300,000 or whatever it may be. They're looking at getting a return on their money, and they want a return of seeing that you're not sort of, taking the money out. And then the third one is operational readiness. That's where it's a really good one, that one. So most people think the day-to-day operations and all the rest of it, yep, it's fine, it's great business. So the first question we always ask people, could you go for a trip to Europe for 2 months? Great place. And then they go no. So 80% or 90% say no. So then we peel it back, and a lot of them get down to 1 or 2 weeks. So it's not ready at that point. A business owner doesn't want to come in and then look at a business that they have to now create a job. And then you could sell your business, and that's fine. You think it's a great business, and it can be. Don't get me wrong. But if you go and look at the whole scenario of that business, it's really at that point where it's so dependent on you that you would have to sell yourself to it. You would then go and work for them. So is that what you want? You have to go and sell yourself to the business and get chained to it for the next 10 years, for example, and you become the operations manager. So nothing changes, but you just get paid less because now you're working for someone else. So if that is what you want to do, then that's an option. But if you want to get out and go and enjoy your, beyond business, where you've got some purpose and a mission that you've never explored before, you're not going to have the time for that. The next one, number 4, market readiness. A lot of people don't really consider market readiness because they kind of look at it's a profitable business and all the rest of it. But all the valuers and everyone else, they go and look, they do comparable sales. So you hear about how you sell your house, and so they have comparable sales. So if you live in a street, they're going to look at all the numbers in your street. It's exactly the same, exactly the same. So you're going to be, all of those types of businesses in your line are going to compare, right? And then they break it all down. So that's where you get the likes of multiples. You'll hear that your business might be like the accountant's quite safe and they'll stay with it 2 or 3 times because you can't be sued for undervaluation. But you might, for example, a lot of businesses are only in that sector. And when they say a multiple of that, it's EBITDA. So at that point, that's where you really need to go and start looking at where you position yourself to your opposition. And this is something that I would start looking at that now. And as we move forward from our other sessions, especially now, I'm going to include AI in this market readiness because that's coming along and it could steal your business because your other operators are using that. And I'm going to use an example like Amazon, right? So Amazon has replaced 750,000 people? 750.
It's a lot.
With not 750,000 robots, 100,000. And they've used software and everything else to automate it in the process. So our ratio is not 7.5 times, we're out of whack. But obviously they're going to work to start off with 3 times because 24/7, and then they're probably going to be efficient. So you can probably save 4 or 5 times. But that 7.5 times model is from software and all the rest of it. So if your opposition is doing that and you're doing nothing, then before you know it, you don't have a business, do you? So we'll just say AI's come along to steal your business. It's gone. So market readiness is so important. And like I say, most people score very low in those last 2. So that operational side, and like I say, you can use, and I'm going to emphasize a lot on AI as we go through our different sessions, but both of those are very applicable in those operation readiness, different software, workflows and all the rest of it. We use products like Asana. We've got different bots that we use for different parts of our business as well. There's lots of things that are working in the background 24/7. So same thing, using the example of Amazon, you could go and jump on the next time you get on a phone call, then you are talking to a bot. You are literally talking to a robot in its own type of thing. It's a bot that's a software system, but that's who you're talking to. You're not talking to a human. They do have humans there, and sometimes if you check them out, they'll go, I need to consult with my supervisor. So that's when they've run out of things to say, so that's their backup. So just remember those 2, operational readiness, so stepping aside as the business owner and building a team so they can step in. So then when the buyer comes along, they go, I'm just going away for 2 months. My team's going to run all of this. That's what the buyer wants. He wants to come in and you've got a team of people. And so you just think yourself, you're making yourself redundant. And like I say, look at the market readiness. Look at the market conditions. Are you the market leader or is someone else diving in there and slowly taking that away?
Yeah, like Greg's story comes to mind. He got a great offer, but he wasn't ready. He had no systems, no successor, and he was emotionally stuck. So the buyer bailed, and it took him then 3 more years to sell at a lower price. So what's next is a weekly challenge and wrap up.
So here you are, the exit challenge for the week. So you don't want to be like Greg's story, do you? You don't want to have that offer and then think that you have no systems or success or you're stuck, and then it takes another 3 years. Sometimes we just don't have that. So we want that challenge where you can pick your ideal exit year. So we've put 5 years because most of the time you're busy in your business and most people need someone else to come in and give them a helping hand. So by the time you go through that process, wherever you are in the world, then that's the kind of the first step. You start mapping that out and definitely get people in there that can help you, take you on that journey, because that will speed up the whole process. They will ask you a lot of great questions, but let's start writing that down now. Pin it on the wall. Don't write it on the wall, but write it on a piece of paper and pin it on the wall. Or if you got a whiteboard, I love whiteboards. They're the greatest place. So grab your whiteboard, write it down there. So year 5. So you're working in the preparation phase, and you just start throwing ideas around at that stage. And some of that, what do you want to do? All I know for myself personally, that took 2 years. But if you utilize, for example, the services that people that have gone through that process, that can be sped up. But seriously, it might chop a year off, but it takes time, because what you discover on that journey is generally quite amazing, really. So write those things down on your whiteboard or a piece of paper, stick it on the wall so it's front of mind. So as they say, where your focus goes, your energy flows. So that's the first step. If the energy is getting a little bit low at the moment, just think of that part. Because if you think that, hey, I'm moving on, I'm moving on to something else, that will totally change the mindset, as we were talking about right from the beginning, isn't it?
That's right, yeah. So next week, we're actually going to dive into something even more urgent, and that is AI. You see, AI isn't your friend. And if you do nothing, it will steal your business and you have nothing to sell. So with a great system and the tools of AI, you could be the market leader in your sector.
So let's go deeper on the 4th. We have a Zoom workshop. Obviously, our next one is on AI, which is our podcast, and we always follow the podcast with the series. But on the 4th, we'll go deeper on what we've been covering today. So if you go back to those 4 steps that we were doing in the preparation phase, the optimization and the transformation phases, that's what we'll go deeper, just on that covering of that in the workshop. So it's a 1 hour on Zoom anywhere in the world. And what we do is we've got Eventbrite, and Meetup is where you can reach out to us, and we'll put all the details in this chat as well. So that's the 4th, and we'll walk through, for example, the Runway side of it. We'll go through the deeper with those tools as well.
Don't forget to subscribe to Spotify, Apple, or YouTube. We're everywhere. We're trying to get everywhere.
Yes, that's
And
right.
if this has been of great value to you, we would love for you to share it with another business owner who needs to hear it. So again, the Meetup and Eventbrite workshop links will be in the show notes. And we really want to thank you for joining us on our podcast. And we look forward to seeing you at our Zoom meetup on the 4th of June, and also in our in-person event meetup on the Friday the 13th June. Don't be superstitious. Good things happen on Friday the 13th, don't they, Dave?
Oh, absolutely.
Like our meetup.
Absolutely. So if you go and look at it, so if you're in Brisbane, whether you're a traveller, whether you live local or the likes, obviously that's where we live. So we'll try and do a little bit of in-person in other parts, but at the moment we live in Brisbane. So
you could get a cheap flight interstate, or
and just
come for a holiday to Brisbane.
Absolutely. And we would really enjoy that. That would be an absolute honour for us to help you out.
That's right, yeah.
So until next time, be kind and share your wisdom. This is JD,
Josie and David. Goodbye for now.
Goodbye for now.